In an election about the economy, the Obama campaign has made it a mission to discredit Mitt Romney's business credentials. Recently, it zeroed in on filings to the SEC from Bain Capital listing Romney as head of Bain, up to 3 years after Romney says he left Bain. It's important because Camp Obama is using some of the Bain investments during the disputed time against Romney.
I think most Americans figure if you're the chairman, CEO, and president of a company, that you are responsible for what that company does.
Obama's deputy campaign manager upped the ante considerably this week, telling reporters the SEC documents show essentially Romney is either a liar or a felon. Romney has tried to stay focused on the economy, explaining Wednesday, when you're responding, you're losing. Friday, Romney was responding in 5 network TV interviews.
I mean, is this the level that the Obama campaign is willing to stoop to? Is this up to the standards expected of the presidency of the United States?
If he's responding, is Mitt Romney losing the message battle? Joining me now is Ed Gillespie. Ed, let me just ask you that first question, which is it a sign that you are losing the message battle, that Mitt Romney, having said if you're responding, you're losing the battle, goes on Friday on 5 different networks to defend himself against the Bain attacks?
Well, Candy, we wanted to get to the issue at hand, which is the economy and jobs and the fact that 500,000 fewer Americans are working today than when President Obama took office. We had the consumer confidence index drop to the lowest level in a year. But there were questions that Governor Romney wanted to address to make sure people understood that he's not a felon. You know, I mean, that's what this campaign on the Obama side was reduced to, and it's sad to see, and I think Americans now know, you've got these baseless charges on moving jobs overseas, which independent fact checkers have said are not true, they're indeed a lie, and then a completely reckless and unfounded allegation of criminal activity, and so it's sad to see. We now know that this president will say or do anything to keep the highest office in the land, even if it means demeaning the highest office in the land.
You can understand, can't you, that voters would still be confused because it's still going on. And here's one of the things. This came out of the Boston Globe on Saturday, and which it said on July 19th, 1999, several months after Mitt Romney says he had left Bain to go help save the Olympics, a news release about the resignation of 2 Bain Capital managing directors describes Romney as CEO and currently on a part-time leave of absence to head the Salt Lake City Olympic Committee. So there's all this documentation of the SEC and press releases that say he's still CEO, he's the sole owner, he's this, he's that, and you have him sort of talking business speak, saying, oh, well, no, I really wasn't all those things in the filings that I find in the SEC. So why is there such a discrepancy? You can understand how people would think, that looks funky. We were coming off a time, Ed, as you well know, where people think that Wall Streeters and investment bankers get away with everything. Doesn't this add to that?
You know, Governor Romney took a leave of absence from his company to go save the Olympics. If you remember at the time,
part-time leave of absence, and there are times that
there may have been a thought at the time that it could be part-time. It was not part-time. The Olympics was in a shambles. There was corruption.
Right.
There was the International Olympic Committee was going to pull the Olympics from the United States of America, which would have been a huge embarrassment. Because of Mitt Romney's leadership skills, he was called on to do it. He took a leave of absence, and in fact, Kenny, he ended up not going back at all and retired retroactively to February of 1999 as a result. Democratic members of Bain, one Democrat who ran for the Senate nomination as a Democrat in Massachusetts, who was there at Bain, said he wasn't there. He wasn't engaged in the day-to-day activities at all. And Harvey Pitt, the former SEC chairman, said it's standard procedure for someone who still has the shares to sign the SEC form, even if you're not making the day-to-day decisions and you've taken a leave of absence.
So is it your position that Mitt Romney was still technically the CEO, the sole owner, and chief shareholder of Bain, but he had nothing to do with any day-to-day decisions at Bain after he left for the Olympics? Is that what you're saying?
He was not involved in the management, was not involved in the day-to-day decisions, and wouldn't have had time. He left a life he loved to go to Salt Lake City to save the Olympics for a country he loves more, and somehow Chicago, in classic Chicago-style politics, the Obama campaign is trying to make this something sinister. It's not. It's patriotic and it's leadership.
run in those circles don't get why a man who's no longer having anything to do with the company by your description is still listed as the CEO and the owner
And Katie, I think it's actually pretty simple. He took a leave of absence to go do something for the country.
Despite the fact that it says part-time leave of absence.
But that release is not, if that's what it said, maybe that's what they thought at the time, was that he could do it part-time. It was not a part-time job. It was a 16-hour-a-day job, and anyone who was involved will tell you that is the case. And again, his partners have all come out and said that he was not involved in the day-to-day decisions, and that's a fact.
Would he at that time been legally responsible? Because look, we know what this is about. We understand that this is important in terms of a couple things. First, openness, honesty, that kind of thing, but also for the Obama campaign, because they want to use some of the decisions that Bain made during those 3 years against Governor Romney. Are you saying that he holds no responsibility for Bain decisions in those 3 years?
That's correct. And look, let's be honest. The reason that the Obama campaign wants to do this is because they want to talk about anything but President Obama's dismal record when it comes to the economy, and it's working. You know, we're spending a lot of time on it here today, as opposed to the fact that, you know, again, last week we had for the record-breaking 41st month unemployment above 8%. The household income has dropped $4,300 under this president. We had the index for manufacturing jobs drop again last month. This is a result of President Obama's policies, and his policies are misguided because he doesn't understand the economy, and Mitt Romney does, and that's why they're trying to attack him on this front.
And let me take that theory. Let's just for argument's sake, I'll accept that theory.
Sure.
It is frustrating to you all because you all want to talk about the economy. Why then doesn't Mitt Romney release all of his tax returns? Why is he limiting it to 2? His father, as you know, sort of set the standard with more than a dozen tax releases. You now have people like Haley Barbour. You also have the governor of Alabama, John Weaver, who I'm sure you know, say, just release the taxes, if the tax returns, just so people can see, because, you know, there's ads out there, so he has Swiss bank accounts, he has offshore holdings in Bermuda, and people are really sensitive to this sort of thing now, and why not just release them? You're an old man.
Yeah, he is going to release them, Ken.
We've made that clear. This year's
and that's the standard that Senator McCain, his Republican nominee in the last election, said was the relevant standard. It's the standard that Senator John Kerry, as the Democratic nominee, said was the standard. And we are going to release them. That's above and beyond what the law requires, by the way. And as for the, you know, the accounts, you know, remember, this is a Governor Romney's holdings are in a blind trust. He doesn't have direction of them. And by the way, if they weren't in a blind trust, you can bet the Democrats would attack him for not having his holdings in a blind trust.
If there's nothing there to hide, this is not your first rodeo, as we were talking about. You know how these things go. The pressure just builds and builds and builds. If there's no reason not to put it out there, why not just do it?
Kenny, we're putting out there his tax returns more than is required by the law.
But
the reason, by the way, we're talking about some of these things is because he put those tax records out there. That's why you're talking about the blind trust and some of those accounts. The fact is, the American people are, very concerned about, am I going to get a job? They look at what this administration is doing, this White House is doing, shifting, stimulus money and green energy jobs
to me those jobs is what the American
people are. And what they're seeing is, if you're a political donor to Barack Obama, you're going to do fine because you're going to get a payoff. If you're a middle-class worker, you're at jeopardy. You're facing a layoff. That's the kind of economy we're seeing with President Obama. His buddies do well. Political supporters do well. They get green jobs, money, and they get stimulus dollars. If you're a middle-class worker, you're struggling right now, and Mitt Romney can make things better for you, and he has a plan to do that, and that's what we're talking about while President Obama is trying to talk about everything but.
Let me just ask you a quick question about the VP choice. We keep getting emails and fundraising emails about how you're close to a decision this month.
I believe that, Governor Romney is, I think he's narrowing the list. I'm not going to, betray any confidences, obviously, but, I think it's something he's rightly taking his time and weighing. It's an important decision, and I'm sure that CNN and others will be the first to know right after the person who wins the contest for contributing money to our website learns.
This month, do you think we'll see an announcement?
I'm just not sure, to be honest with you, and I don't want to set expectations, one way or the other and then not meet them. So,
Ed Gillespie, Senior Advisor to the Romney campaign, thank you.